All right, let's get right into it. We hear this story all the time, right? That AI is some kind of runaway train, an unstoppable force that's just spiraling out of our control. But what if that whole story, what if it isn't the full picture? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that narrative and ask who's really behind the wheel.
And look, this quote right here, it just nails that feeling, doesn't it? This is from a really well-known open letter. It sounds super dramatic, high stakes, and it paints this picture of humanity teetering on the edge, about to lose control of its own creation. This is the story we're constantly told. But the question is it actually true?
So yeah, this whole narrative, this idea of an out-of-control race, is really at the core of what a lot of people call the AI alignment problem.
So what even is the alignment problem? Well, on the surface, it's pretty straightforward. As AI gets smarter and more powerful, how do we make absolutely sure its goals stay in line with our goals? How do we stop it from doing things that could end up being really harmful to us? It's always framed as a problem of controlling the machine.
Okay, but here's where we're going to push back. Our argument is that this popular story of AI being out of control is actually built on 3 big fundamental mistakes in our thinking, and we're going to break down every single one.
So first up, there's this idea that AI has a will of its own, that it's agentic. Second, there's the myth that its development is just this runaway train that nobody can stop. And third, the assumption that fixing all this is a job that's only for the coders and philosophers. All right, let's tackle these one by one.
Okay, so let's dig into that first misconception. This idea that AI is somehow alive and making its own decisions. And this way of thinking, it is not new at all.
In fact, this tendency we have has a name. It's called animism. It's this really deep-seated human habit of projecting our own qualities, like consciousness or intentions or free will, onto things that aren't human, especially when it's new, complicated technology.
And if you look back, you see this pattern pop up again and again. Back in the 1800s, Karl Marx talked about factory machines having demonic power. Then in the 1980s, you had people talking about their brand new personal computers as if they had a mind of their own. And today, we're doing the exact same thing, asking if ChatGPT is conscious.
So why do we keep doing this? Honestly, because it's a shortcut. It's just easier. Trying to actually understand the billions of algorithmic connections inside a giant language model is, well, it's pretty much impossible for most of us. It's a total black box. So slapping a personality on it, or a will, that's just the simplest way our brains can make sense of its really complex and, let's be honest, sometimes super weird behavior.
And this brings us to a really sharp quote from the political theorist Langton Winter. It gets to the real heart of the matter. Technology doesn't just appear. People build it, people with goals and motives. So the critical shift we need to make is to stop staring at the machine and start looking at the people who are actually building and directing it.
Because when you look, you see that far from being out of control, AI development is being very carefully and deliberately steered by actual people at every single level. At the national level, you've got countries like the US and China using everything from research grants to trade sanctions to push AI in the direction they want. Zoom into a regional level, and you see autocratic leaders like Mohammed bin Salman using AI in these massive projects like NEOM to tighten their grip on power. And even at the city level, it's public-private partnerships driving how AI gets woven into our daily lives. None of this is random. These are all conscious, strategic decisions made by people in power.
And that brings us to what's really going on here. The problem isn't that we've lost control. It's that control is concentrated in the hands of a very small number of people, and it's all happening behind closed doors, way outside of public view.
Which, of course, leads to the big question. If the technology isn't the one running the show, then who is?
And the answer really is pretty simple. It's a small group of incredibly powerful stakeholders. We're talking governments, giant tech corporations, and a handful of very influential individuals. They are the ones making the big calls about what kind of AI gets built, how fast it gets built, and, most importantly, who gets to benefit from it.
So this is the point I really want to drive home. We talk all the time about AI algorithms being a black box because they're so complex and hard to understand. But the real black box, the truly mysterious system that we need to crack open, is the politics. It's that hidden network of power, money, and influence that's actually steering the ship.
So, once you see it this way, everything changes. It allows us to completely reframe the so-called alignment problem. It stops being this abstract technical puzzle and turns into something totally different. What that means is we can stop asking the old question, how do we code human values into a machine? And instead, we can start asking the real question, how do we make the whole process of AI development accountable to the public and to democracy? See the difference? It's not about aligning the machine anymore, it's about aligning the powerful people and institutions that are creating it.
And this is huge, because reframing it this way is incredibly empowering. It means the alignment problem isn't some puzzle for experts to solve in a lab. No, it's a political challenge. And that means it requires all of us, as citizens, to get engaged. And we have real-world examples of this actually working. In Barcelona, citizens are getting directly involved in how the city governs AI. In San Francisco, public outcry literally stopped the city from deploying weaponized police robots. Citizen engagement can, and does, make a real difference.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If AI development isn't some unstoppable force of nature, but is in fact a political game being played by a very powerful few, then shouldn't the public, shouldn't citizens, have the ultimate power? Not just to influence the rules of the game, but maybe even to decide if certain parts of that game should be played at all?